right, welcome everybody to day 2 of the Outlaws at Thunder Junction set review. Today we are doing Rares, Mythics, and get ready, it's a bit of a marathon. Rares, Mythics, the breaking news, committing a crime bonus sheet, the big score extra bonus sheet that was another set that was supposed to be in existence but got shoved into this one, and the special guests. Don't worry, if that's confusing, we're going to explain it when we get to it. But we got a lot of cards today. A lot of cards that, yeah, it's actually pretty close to the same number of cards as we did yesterday. It's about 180 cards, more Fs and As as per usual in the Rares and Mythics. But I don't want to waste too much time here. Mark, anything to say before we jump in?
Yeah, no, this is gonna be long enough already, so let's just go.
Yeah, just if you didn't catch yesterday, or just a little bit of a reminder here. Mark is still recovering from a bit of a cough, so I will be reading most of the cards. So hopefully you not get sick of my voice too much. We want to preserve Mark's voice so that he can bring his insights to us past the 10th card of the set or whatever. So let's just jump in. We're going to start with the gold cards this time, starting with Assimilation Aegis. This is a 1 blue-white mythic equipment. And it says, when Assimilation Aegis enters the battlefield, exile up to 1 target creature until Assimilation Aegis leaves the battlefield. It also has, whenever Assimilation Aegis becomes attached to a creature, for as long as it remains attached to that creature, the creature becomes a copy of the creature card that was exiled with Assimilation Aegis. A lot of repeating words here, but basically, it's a 3-mana sort of Oblivion Ring style card. You get rid of a creature, and then you can then equip this for 2 mana. Didn't read the equip cost. It's 2 mana equip cost, and you get to make copies of that for as long as this is equipped to it. So, a pretty nice one to start off with here.
Yeah, it's Oblivion Ring with upside, but interestingly, as we'll find out pretty soon, this is the only white-blue rare or mythic in the main set. So there's definitely, like, it's not even just a little bit of an imbalance. Like there's no semblance of cycles across rares and mythics. There's kind of just a smattering of stuff here and there on both the 2-color and the 3-color and all those bonus sheet stuff we talked about. So it's going to be kind of hard to judge, like, apples to apples. Are you going to be pulled more into a specific color pair or not? Because you're not going to see the same frequency of those rares in each draft.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. Usually they're pretty consistent about that. So it's a little bit strange that...
There's been a few Dave Humphries sets where
True.
he's broken the mold. So
yeah, of course.
I like to think that it's an idea of, like, well, we played the set, we realized that this color pair needed a bit of a boost, so we tossed them an extra bone, and hopefully it's all with some semblance of thought in mind and not just at random. But I'm sure it is.
In any case, well, at least blue white gets a good one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the way this is gonna work is, I think you're probably gonna wait a little bit. You're not just gonna cast this on turn 3 very often. You're gonna want to nab a 4-drop or a 5-drop, but then all of your little 1/1 tokens, your mercenaries, can just become 4/4s, 5/5s. It's a real pain to deal with. Obviously, it's a little susceptible to the many disenchants that are in this format, but it's kind of the price of doing business here. I think Assimilation Aegis gets a probably an A.
Yeah, I was gonna give it an A-, but you could be right about that. I think I'm still gonna stick with A-, but
an alliteration A Assimilation Aegis. I think I like the sound of that. Yeah, no, I was more just saying, like, the A range. I agree with the A-, because it's not just like, yeah, totally. I will join you at A-. And just one thing I want to say, we were singing the praises of Dave Humphries, the designer of this set, yesterday, but somebody in the chat mentioned, and I agree with it, that I also want to call out that there's a whole team of great Magic players on the design team that contributed and worked for months on this set. It's not just a one-man job. Dave led the set, which is great, but a bunch of folks over there that are doing good work, so do want to give them credit too. So yeah, A-.
Well, Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi, they prop up their teams, right? They get a lot of the...
Exactly. Yeah, it's a good analogy. All right, moving on to Satoru The Infiltrator. So this is black-blue for a 2/3 legendary creature, human ninja rogue, so an outlaw. It's got Menace, and it's a rare, and it says, when Satoru or one or more other non-token creatures enters the battlefield under your control, if none of them were cast or no mana was spent to cast them, you draw a card.
Yeah. Weird wording on the ability there. Like, I thought I had understood it properly, but when you just read it out to me, I realized I might need to take another second to process this bit more. But I mean, the idea here is that you either blink something, reanimate it, or plot it, and you're going to draw a card as long as it's a non-token, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at here. That's what I'm thinking. It's also like it's a commander plant for ninjas or whatever, but a 2/3 menace creature that says draw a card on all your block creatures. That's pretty darn good. Yeah, I mean,
and I read it again, and I was thinking like if multiple creatures enter the battlefield and one of them casts and one of them wasn't, but that's basically never going to happen. So ignore what I said about not understanding.
Okay.
Pretty much this is advertised. 2/3 menace for 2 mana with the potential to draw cards later is just going to be a pretty good card.
Yeah, it's not a bomb, but a very efficient card. And if you draw one card off this, you're happy. If they don't remove this, you're gonna probably take over the game if you've got enough plot cards. I think Satoru probably belongs to the B range. I'd probably give it a B.
I think I'm gonna go B plus. Like it's got really good stats.
Yeah, that's true. It just blocks well. Yeah, B plus then.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, like a 2/3 menace for 2 is already, and it's like got types too.
Yep, that's true. Got types. Gotta always give the slight boost for types. Sweet. Next up, we've got Laughing Jasper Flint. This is 1 black-red for a 4/3 lizard rogue, legendary creature at rare. Creatures you control but don't own are mercenaries in addition to their types. So you gotta steal things. And how are you gonna do that? It says at the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top X cards of target opponent's library, where X is the number of outlaws you control. Until the end of turn, you may cast spells from among those cards, and mana of any type can be spent to cast those spells. Oof.
Yeah, that's pretty nice. So this is actually the first of 4 Rakdos cards.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, so a lot of more support for black-red, kind of, which is, to remind people from yesterday, this is the Outlaw themed pair. And this is a great payoff, and it also works with stuff like upkeep. I guess if you instant speed response to the trigger by doing a crime and act of treasoning, you can add one more to this as well. Or sorry, that's going to be it's also going to count as an additional mercenary and be able to trigger that too. So
yeah, it's a must kill, right? Like this thing just comes down.
And it's got great stats too.
Yeah,
it's got value and tempo.
Little bit oversized for its cost. Yeah, not too much to complain about here. Kind of like Satoru, I feel like it's just your opponent has to kill this thing. It's a good body. Want to just give it a B plus as well?
Yeah, it's like maybe better
Slightly?
than that.
Yeah, just like it's a little more must kill because it just kind of sits there, and like Satoru, you have to actually have the cards in your hand and do stuff. This just like sits there and accrues some value.
It can accrues a lot of value.
Yeah. I said some, but you might just deck them at some point with this card too, right? Like
or like, and it's not just cast one, right? You can cast any number of them.
Oh, it's a crime every turn too, right? Oh man, yeah, that's okay. No, I think that bumps it up at least to the 8 mana range then.
Yeah, okay, that's where I was going with this.
Cool.
I'd be surprised if it was worse than that too. Like it could even be better.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Okay, let's give it an A minus, and like you said, that might be a little bit conservative even. All right, it's gonna move us on to our second Rakdos card here. Akul the Unrepentant. This is black, red for a legendary creature, Scorpion Dragon Rogue. It's a rare. It's a 5/5 flying trample. So 4 mana for 5/5 flying trample. And it's got the ability sacrifice 3 other creatures. You may put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. Activate only as a sorcery and only once each turn. Okay, so we've got a big ol' giant 4 mana 5/5 flying trample, and that's basically it. I mean, you might have some situations where you like have a bunch of tokens you don't care about or things that are good to sacrifice, and you're like, oh, it's like, okay, it's kind of funny. I get to put this in here at a discount. But really, you're looking at the body here.
Yeah, and this is the only, there's no XXYY cycle.
Right.
Like, this is the only one, so this is kind of a nice reward for being Rakdos, and you're going to play it if you're Rakdos, but not much beyond that, right?
Yeah, and it's not like a super amazing card or anything. It still does have the problem of just being like a big thing that doesn't have an enter the battlefield effect. Although, it kills them really quick. If they don't have the answer, it's going to be like 5/5/5, you're almost dead. So I don't want to knock it too much. I think it's probably going to end up having worse stats than it looks like it will. So I think I'm going to end up giving it like a C+. I might be a little bit low on that. What do you think?
Yeah, I think C+ is actually pretty fair for this.
The other thing too is that black, red. I think the chances of casting that on a 9/8 mana base on turn 4 is something like slightly sub 70%, if I remember correctly, like doing the math for the XXY cards we've had before. So you're also just not going to cast this on turn 4 every time. I might prioritize a dual land or two if you did have this card. A Rakdos dual land makes any dual land makes this way easier to cast. But yeah, I think C+ is pretty fair. All right. Rakdos joins up next. Is it's part of kind of like a cycle of these. You know, if you're used to the Oath of the Gatewatch like Oath cards where the Planeswalkers join, this is like the enemy villain versions of it, the join up card. So Rakdos joins up, 3 black-red for a legendary enchantment at rare. When Rakdos joins up, enters the battlefield, return target creature from your graveyard to the battlefield with 2 additional +1/+1 counters on it. And then it says, whenever a legendary creature you control dies, Rakdos joins up, deals damage equal to that creature's power to target opponent.
Yeah, so we talked a bit yesterday how there was a number of reanimates across the set, and here's just one of the examples of it. This is kind of similar to Defossilize-ish.
Yeah.
Which was quite a good card.
Yeah, it's always like putting counters, making the thing you reanimate bigger is always a little bit better than it seems, actually, because even if you reanimate, like the problem with reanimation spells generally is like you have to work a little bit to get your mana's worth. You don't want to be reanimating like a 2-drop or a 3-drop. But if you reanimate like a 3-drop with this, it's still going to be pretty large. You're looking to reanimate something great, but if you have to reanimate a 3-drop on turn 5 and it's just a 5/5 with maybe a good ability, you're not that sad about that.
Yeah, like even if you bring back like Vial Smasher, which I'm assuming is a legend, right? Like
it is, yeah.
That whole cycle of legends, right? Yeah. So you're, I mean, it's only a 2-drop, but you're getting a 5/4 that, you know, pings them, and then when it dies, it lava axes their face.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty scary.
Yeah, and I do think that last line of text here, the legendary creatures you control deal damage when they die. Like, that's a pretty relevant line of text. Don't overlook that. At the same time, though, you know, it's got all the setup that a reanimation spell kind of always does. I think Rakdos Joins Up is a good reanimation spell, and I did, you know, I was catching some Discord conversation, and people were talking, made that comparison like you did with the Defossilize, and Defossilize ended up being like about a C+, B-. I think Rakdos Joins Up is going to be about the same, so I'm going to give it a B+. I'm sorry, it's a C+.
C+. I'm gonna give it. I'll give it go B-, just because I think the damage, like out of all the color pairs to matter, this is a nice one to have it in.
Nice. Yeah. No.
And I think it's pretty easy to flash too, and like castable. So.
What if you reanimate Rakdos himself? Rakdos the Muscle is 2 black/red for a mythic legendary creature, Demon Mercenary. It's a 6/5 flying trample, so pretty nice. Whenever you sacrifice another creature, exile cards equal to its mana value from the top of target player's library. Until your next end step, you may play those cards, and mana of any type can be spent to cast those spells. It also has the ability sacrifice another creature. Rakdos gains indestructible until end of turn. Tap it. Activate this only once per turn.
Yeah, I'm very glad that this thing is a mythic.
Yes, definitely. It passes the big thing. Oh, but it actually does have some protection here with that sacrifice ability. And just like, what was that last card called? Akul or something? Yeah, Akul. It's going to kill you really, really quickly.
Yeah, I mean, this can. There's going to be spots where you just cast this and it just like decks your opponent. Too,
yeah,
right?
No, absolutely. Oh, yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, you're just like in the mid game and you go like, all right, sack my 5 power creature.
Well, it's not power.
Oh, sorry, 5 mana value creature.
If you have like, you know, 15 mana value worth of creatures on your side of the battlefield, you can just mill them for 15. And it's until your next end. Like you can cast those, summon number of them as well.
Well, it is once per turn for the sacrifice, right? So you have to like kind of do over some turns. But you can, you know, do it once in your turn, once in your opponent's turn.
Oh, it is only once per turn.
Yeah.
Oh, I missed that. Okay. That makes it okay. Never mind what I said then.
Yeah. But you know,
a lot of text on these cards.
I mean, I think your point kind of still stands because of what I just said, right? Like if their deck is somewhat within reach, you go sack on my turn, sack on your turn, sack on my turn, you're dead, right? So.
Yeah, and anything you sack on their turn, you can still play until your next end step. So.
Yeah, great card. You want to give Rakdos an A?
It's like either an A or an A+, right?
Yeah.
I think it's probably just an A+.
I'll stick with the A, I think. But yeah, you could be right. No, you know what? The value of it too. Yeah, it's like value and protection and kills you. No, you're right. I think we
And
can
like
bump
huge.
it. And giant. Yeah. Okay, we'll give it an
Yeah,
A plus
okay.
Rakdos. All right. Next up we've got Roxanne, Starfall Savant. This is 3 green red for a legendary cat druid at rare. It's a 4/3, so a little small. It's a 5 mana 4/3, but when it enters the battlefield or attacks, you create a tapped colorless artifact token named Meteorite. And if you've played Meteorite before, it is exactly Meteorite. With and the Meteorite says, when Meteorite enters the battlefield, it deals 2 damage to any target, and it has tap, add 1 mana of any color. It also has an ability. Roxanne has the ability, whenever you tap an artifact token for mana, add 1 mana of any type that artifact token produced.
Yeah, this is getting dangerously close to alchemy, where you're like, creating cards,
Conjuring cards.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it is very alchemy-ish, and people are saying like, oh, the art's very silly and kind of like League of Legends-esque. She's a little bit of lore dump here. She's a character from like the Unsets, so that's why it kind of feels like that. I believe. I'm not positive, but I think so. She's really good though.
Yeah, and notably that it's got asking chat, and this ability, second ability, I believe, does work with treasures because they do tap when they sacrifice.
Yeah, indeed. So. Yeah, it just comes in, deals 2 to something, threatens to attack and do the same, ramps you at the same time, fixes you. Yeah, she seems great.
Like an A?
Yeah, exactly. I think if she was like a 5/5, she'd be the A plus. But yeah, I'll give an A to Roxanne.
Okay, and I think it's worth mentioning this for each color pair. This is the only, just like to do a mental check.
Yep.
This is the only Gruul card. So
yeah, that's a good call.
We're at 1/1/4/1 so far.
Yeah, weird, like you said, weird distributions.
Mm.
Sfic Steed is up next. White green for a 2/2 unicorn mount at rare. So mount, it's important creature type as well. It's got first strike and lifelink, and it says whenever Sfic Steed attacks while saddled, create a 3/3 white angel creature token with flying. Saddle cost is a bit pricey. It's 4.
So this is something you'd really enjoy having hexproof on your turn, which the uncommon yesterday can give.
Yeah.
Because if you get to attack with this thing saddled, and like if you have you do need a profitable attack. So by the time you're playing this on turn 2, which would be ideal, but it is vulnerable. And then on turn 3, there are 4 power creatures that can saddle this, but you do have a few hoops you need to jump through to kind of live the dream.
Yes.
But it's insanely powerful, and it's just excellent stats on its own also.
Yeah, like what would you give a 2 mana 2/2 first strike lifelink?
Like a B?
Right. Yeah, that's just very good. And then add that ability on. Just an efficient little package, probably an A minus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
A minus for Sfic Steed. Green white does get a few more rares here. Wily Duke, Atin Hero. This is 1 green white for a 4/2 legendary creature human ranger at rare. So not an important creature type. This is a funny card. It's got vigilance, and it says when it becomes tapped, you gain a life and draw a card. So joke there is like, it doesn't just do it when it attacks. You gotta saddle, use it to saddle basically.
Or crew.
Yeah, crewing works too.
Or it is not a mount, so you can tap this with the white tapper as well.
Yeah, just like pay 2 mana, draw a card. Yeah, that's kind of cute.
So there's a few ways to do it.
Yeah, and worth noting, if the game is at a point where it's a bit stalled out, you don't have to be attacking with your mount. You could just be like, all right, I saddle my mount, I draw a card, gain a life, no attacks, pass a turn, do it again next turn.
Yeah, it is even nicer with crew because you can do it on their turn. But
yes, that's a good point.
Either way, you're going to be happy either way.
Yeah. So, what do you like for this one? It's not as just like overtly like oof in your face as a few of the last ones we saw, and it does need to you have to pick up the cards and draw the cards that work well with it. But it shouldn't be too difficult to do that. There is a pretty good density of mount cards at common and uncommon.
Yeah, there's also notably you can also like green and white both have excellent protection spells, so you can probably get into combat with this. So you can brawl with this, and then like post combat, you can also saddle your mount.
Totally, yeah, nothing wrong with brawling with it.
Which a lot of the mount saddles have combat based benefits, so there's going to be a bit of tension there. But if you don't want to give up on the 4 damage, that's a relevant line as well.
Yeah, I think one thing. Go ahead.
I was just going to go into a grade, but if you have more to say, go ahead.
All I was going to say is something to note is that a context thing for a lot of these really cheap rares is there's no shock in this set, right? Like a lot of times these like a good rares, 2 power or two toughness kind of get picked off, and it's like, all right, not always gonna happen, but annoying when it does. These are gonna stick a little more often than they would in some sets.
It does make me think that maybe the red 2 damage for 2 mana spell that you can cast additional spells to deal more might be better than we gave it credit for yesterday.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because there are a lot of like X2s for 3 mana, which we kind of talked about at the time, but didn't really bump up a grade for. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So what do you want to give Wily Duke?
I think I'll go B plus.
Yep, that's exactly where I was gonna go to. Sweet.
Okay.
One more Selesnya rare here, a mythic actually. Salala, Eager Trailblazer. It's 2 white-green for a 4/5 Vigilant Elf Scout legendary creature. Whenever you cast a creature spell, you make a mercenary token. And since it's our first instance today, I'm going to read this out again. It's a 1/1 red mercenary token with the ability tap. Target creature you can control gets +1/+0 until end of turn. Activate only as a sorcery. And she has an ability tap, choose a color. Add 1 mana of that color for each different power among creatures you control. So, Coven-ish.
Yeah. And you can like cast something off plot with this to potentially trigger it right away.
Yeah, that's a really... You're going to see that on a few rares. The kind of design intention, what Marc just said, where we noted yesterday that plot kind of has a lot of... They did a lot of different designs. I imagine there was a brainstorming session at play design where they're like, or in design where they just went, okay, what are the different ways we can use plot? And one of the things is when you have a big creature that has a cool, if I untap, I get to do my thing ability. Well, there's no window for your opponent to respond, right? So you plot something, you cast Selvala, they can't remove this before you get to cast your plot card, so you're going to get your trigger no matter what.
That being said, this is a no ETB, no protection 4-drop.
Yep. We don't like
so
those.
I think the cap on it's got to be reasonable.
Yeah.
It's like a B or B plus.
Yeah, I was
thinking B.
I was gonna give it a B. Yeah, I do knock it quite a bit for that, and you're not just always gonna have a plot thing to guarantee that trigger. But yeah, it's another thing. It's just like if it sticks, you're gonna win the game. So I like it a lot. B. Kambal, Profiteering Mare is up next. We're in black-white. Only one black-white rare here. 1 black-white for a legendary creature, Human Advisor at rare. It's a 2/4, and it says, whenever 1 or more tokens enters the battlefield under your opponent's control, for each of them, create a tapped token that's a copy of it. This ability triggers only once per turn, though, and it also says, whenever 1 or more tokens enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses a life, and you gain 1 life.
Yeah, so notably, when I noticed that there was a different number of rares for each color, I thought they might have kind of made up for it in the tricolor cards. And I was like, there's more Rakdos cards, so there's probably less 3-color cards that have like black-red in them.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still not even at all. And one of the least represented pairs is also black-white.
Right.
So I do think that black-white's going to be a deck you don't end up in very often, just because there's not like a clear path to get there. And one of the uncommons yesterday, we kind of talked down a little bit, and this is also not the most insane rare, so we'll see. But my guess is black-white's going to be one of the lower performing archetypes.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. If you think of the signpost uncommons we talked about yesterday, the 3/2 that comes in and sacrifice something to kill non-permanent, that card's good. Yeah. But the other one we weren't that big of a fan of. Kind of has that 4 mana, no ETB, no protection problem. Kambal's not amazing. It is 3 mana, so I don't mind that it doesn't do anything immediately. I think you're mostly valuing it for the second ability, where you can kind of build it around a little bit. You can't always rely on your opponent making tokens.
But it's not like a lot of these rares, like if you trigger some of these once or twice, you're like, I've really done it. And this one, if you trigger this twice, you've kind of made like a vampire spawn.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, like there's a dream to be had here. There's a ceiling. Not a dream, but a ceiling.
Yeah, I don't know. I have this as like C.
Yeah, I think C as well.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, I do want to kind of address something in chat here. Not to, again, we have a long day ahead of us, but I do want to address this. Chat was just pointing out between Selvala and Wily Duke. Like, we gave Wily Duke a B+, we gave Selvala a B. again, I really want to hammer home that huge dividing line between 3 and 4 and what it takes for a 4 mana plus card to be good. Needs that protection, needs that. We've seen it time and time and time and time and again on 17 land stats. Like, this is the clear trend. And just, also, good players say it too. It's not just a trend, it's something that has been repeated from good players. So if you're like, how do they give a B to Selvala but a B plus to Wily Duke? It's that dividing line between 3 and 4 mana. It really is huge. Anyways, let's move on.
Also, if there's one that you're going to be triggering regularly,
Mhm.
I'd rather gain a life and draw a card than make a mercenary.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
Yeah.
All right, Pillage the Bog. This is kind of an interesting card. Black-green for a sorcery at rare. Look at the top X cards of your library, where X is twice the number of lands you control. Put one of them into your hand, and the rest in the bottom of your library in a random order. And has plot for 1 green black.
Yeah, so kind of a weird, like in some cases it could just be demonic tutor, in other cases it's just like, draw a card kind of.
Yeah, I think it's like fine. I don't think. Are you going to cut this from a black-green deck?
I don't think so. Like,
No.
it's anticipate kind of.
Yeah,
it's better, a little bit better, but like
Yeah.
harder to cast.
Yeah,
right?
it's a big anticipate. And anticipate's like pretty filler, and usually anticipate has spell reasons to play it. Like, you care about instants and sorceries, so it's, yeah, you're probably not cutting the card, but it's also not anything special. Like, you shouldn't take this. You should just take it in the middle of the pack. You're like, oh hey, I'm black green. Yeah, sure, I'll take that. And that's probably about a C plus.
Yeah, I like it at C, and like this, it does plot for 3, which is upside. But it's going to be pretty hard to curve this into Crom on 4.
Yeah,
even though it sounds for like a lot of value.
You were talking about the fixing yesterday, Mark. Though.
Yeah, I didn't say impossible.
That's true. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna give it a C. It's fine. I said, I posed the question to you, like, are you gonna cut this? And I think you actually will, probably, if your black green deck is good enough. But then again, it's like, if your black green deck is good enough, then maybe you want to find your good cards. So interesting. Anyways, next up, we've got another black green card. Vraska joins up. This is a black green legendary enchantment at rare. When it enters the battlefield, you put a death touch counter on each creature you control. And whenever a legendary creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card.
Yeah, second of 4 Golgari cards. This one is kind of interesting, but not like great, I don't think.
Yeah, it's so you play a 2, you play a 3, you play a 2 and a 2 in this, maybe, or on turn 5 you play like a 3 in this. It makes it so your opponent can't attack you at all very well, and certain creatures, like giving them a death touch creature, like you put it on a 1/4 or something, or sorry, death touch counter, put it on a 1/4, put it on like a 2/4, really is annoying.
It's pretty good if you have a first strike legend, like Sfic Steed, or no, it's not even a legend. Damn it. Okay, that doesn't even work. But yeah, there's not a lot of legends with evasion. I mean, we'll go back to Crom again. Maybe this 4-color non-white deck is real.
Yeah.
So it's going to be hard to get a card off this, and I think if you don't get a card off this, it's not worth the slot.
Yeah, I think it's just a little bit asking you to do too many things. Like, if you put a death touch counter on 2 things, that's not good enough.
No.
I think this card is just not very good, to be honest. So
I'm going to give it a D+.
Yep, I was going to just give it a D, but yeah, we're kind of in the same range. Vraska the Silencer up next. 1 black-green for a 3/3 Mythic. It's a legendary creature, Gorgon Assassin. It's got Death Touch. And it says, whenever a non-token creature an opponent controls dies, you may pay 1. If you do, return that card to the battlefield tapped under your control. It's a treasure artifact with tap. Sacrifice this artifact, add 1 mana of any color, and it loses all other card types. So we got a 3/3. Yeah, good.
I was just going to say, it loses types, but not abilities.
Yes, that's important.
That's easy to miss.
And it's also kind of weird, because if you played Phyrexian LB1, Vraska's ability was like very similar to this, and it did lose the ability of on the treasure it made. So yeah, weird little continuation here. And for once, Vraska. Oh no, sorry, I was gonna say it doesn't have Death Touch first strike, but that's Glissa. So decent card. It's not just like an over the top excellent holy crap card, but it's a nice little efficient package.
Yeah, it's very scary, and notably, okay, so when you trade this with another creature, my brain's kind of going slow mode today.
That's okay.
You're still gonna get that trigger once, right? Like if Raska
Yes.
trades with something,
Yep.
you'll still be able to do it once, and then that's like kind of the other than this thing just instantly dying for removal, like that's not even that bad if this just trades for something and brings it back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. Like it's
So
hard for this card to be bad. Basically, the floor is very high.
yeah, this is a B plus.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna give Raska too. Nothing fancy, but just pretty good. All right, we got a funny one here. The Gitrog Ravenous Ride. This is 3 black-green for a 6/5 trample haste legendary creature frog mutant mount. Or sorry, frog horror mount at Mythic. And it says, whenever the Gitrog deals combat damage to a player, you may sacrifice a creature that saddled it this turn. If you do, draw X cards and then put X land cards from your hand onto the battlefield tapped, where X is the sacrifice creature's power. Saddle cost is only 1.
Yeah, it's got a lot of words for something that's good, but I don't think it's not an A-level card.
Well, it does sort of have an enter the battlefield effect. I do count haste as that.
Yeah.
Like, I think 5 mana, 6/5 trample haste is pretty darn good.
For sure.
Yeah. Like, I do think it is in the A range. Like, I was going to give it an A minus.
Okay.
Yeah, like, because when you play it, it's not that likely your opponent's going to have a great block. So, you just get him for 6. And even if they do have an okay block, you're probably trading for 2 creatures. And then, if it untaps, you get to sacrifice maybe a mercenary to draw a card, and then they have to deal with it again. I think this card is pretty
Well, it's not if it untaps, it's if it connects, right?
Sorry, if it connects. Yes, if it connects. It's not an attack trigger. And you could, I mean,
Yeah.
the turn you play it, you could do it too, of course.
Yeah.
I think what's going to happen a lot of the time is this is going to get in one good hit. You're going to sacrifice a token to draw a card, or something that's good to sacrifice to draw a card. And then if your opponent deals with it, sure, that's fine. And if they don't, you're going to run away with the game.
Yeah, I guess this is basically just Aomer.
Yeah, Aomer. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it doesn't create material, but it draws you cards. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'm with you.
Okay.
I'm there.
Sweet. Yeah.
I don't spend as much time reading the Rares and Mythics during preview season, so my grades are a lot less confident with these. But
Oh,
yeah,
that's all
you've
good.
talked to me about it. It's an excellent card. I'm
Yeah.
with you.
Okay. Cool. You want to give it an A or an A minus?
I think I'll still go A minus.
Yeah. No, that's what I was gonna land to. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool card. Next up, we've got he's back in multiple forms in this set, as we'll see. Oko, the Ringleader. This is our only Planeswalker in the main set. It is a.
I don't think that's true. There's a blue one, right?
Oh, that's true. There's Jace too. My bad. Oko is a 2 green blue 3 loyalty Planeswalker at Mythic. Has a static ability. At the beginning of combat on your turn, Oko the Ringleader becomes a copy of up to 1 target creature you control until end of turn, and he has hexproof. Okay, that's kind of cool. Plus ability, +1, draw 2 cards. If you've committed a crime this turn, discard a card. Oh, sorry, yeah. If you've committed a crime this turn, discard a card. Otherwise, discard 2 cards. So you draw a card if you've committed a card, and you just loot basically twice if you haven't. -1, make a 3/3 elk token. -5, for each non-land permanent you control, each other non-land permanent, create a token that's a copy of that permanent.
Yeah, so you got to clarify something for this on me, because I'm not sure about this. A lot of these times when I've seen Planeswalkers become creatures, they either have indestructible or say prevent the damage.
Mm-hmm.
If you turn this into a creature and get into combat and it gets blocked,
yeah.
Does it lose loyalty
No,
counters?
I don't believe it does. No, it just if it were to die, just like the creature, like combat does not remove loyalty counters if this is attacking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's pretty good. I think that little, the static ability is a nice upside. Maybe you've got a great board state already, and Oko just kind of closes out the game quickly. But maybe you just turn into a flyer, it pecks in. Maybe you copy something that commits a crime, So you get 2 triggers when you commit a crime and then get to plus it. That's kind of cool. The looting ability is good, and I think you're going to fairly often be able to just plus and draw a card with this. The one downside from this card, I think, is that the 3 loyalty. That is, I think that's a balancing factor because the rest of the card's pretty good.
Yeah, and chat clarified that when you copy the creature, it's not actually a planeswalker anymore,
Right.
which is why, yeah. So, yeah. If you spend a long enough reading the cards, eventually it explains it. But,
that's what they say.
So the play pattern on turn 4, do you think you're going to, because you're not going to be committing a crime the turn you cast this, because you're casting the Oko. So you're probably going to have to minus it first, right?
Right. Yeah, I would say so.
And then it has 2 loyalty. So then you're pretty far away from getting up to the -5, which if you're head on board, it's pretty close. But I think this card's very good. I'm just trying to figure out exactly how good.
Yeah, I agree with that. I almost don't think you mind not getting to the ultimate. I mean, there's going to be some board states where just it's clear, the coast is clear, and you go, okay, uptick, ultimate, great. But I think just becoming a copy of something with a good ability and drawing some cards or making some elks, like I think most of the time you're just not going to care too much. Like if you care about that -5, either you're way ahead already or the board's stalled out and it's easy to get to. It's not a turn 4 play. You've top decked it and you're just kind of chilling. But in the on curve, I think you're just like considering the +1 and -1.
Yeah. So, and I guess another thing to warn about is if you play this and go to combat and make it a creature with haste or whatever, you then won't be able to activate one of the loyalty abilities in your post-combat main
Yes,
phase.
that's a really good point.
That's, I guess, a warning that I just learned live that the viewers and listeners can learn as well.
Sweet. Yeah, I like you said, good card, but hard to nail. Planeswalkers are always a little bit tricky to nail down because they're usually pretty novel.
I'll give it a safe A-.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to do too. Yeah, Oak
Sure.
the Ringleader. Not quite as good as his previous card, but still pretty good. This next card, though, I've heard a lot of, why isn't this one Mythic? This is Bonnie Paul Clearcutter. It's 3 green, blue for a legendary creature, Giant Scout at rare. It's a 6/5 reach. So 6 mana, 6/5 reach. When it enters the battlefield, you create Bow, a legendary blue Ox creature token with this creature's power and toughness are equal to the number of lands you control. And it also says, when you attack, draw a card. Then you may put a land card from your hand or graveyard onto the battlefield, and that's not a when you attack with this. It's just a hasty when you attack with anything.
Yep, this one's an easy A+. We
Yep.
can go to the next card.
Exactly. Yep. You're gonna put like 12 power and toughness on board, basically, or I guess 12, 11 on board on turn 6 a lot of the time. Yeah, card's great. All right, cool. Next up, Malcolm the Eyes is red-blue for a 2/2 legendary creature, Siren Pirate, so also an outlaw at rare. It's got flying and haste, and it says whenever you cast your second spell each turn, you investigate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This card's sweet.
Cool. So another payoff for these the blue-red that's another set. The blue-red double spell deck. And it's on a 2/2 flying hasty body. Yeah, nothing really hate about this.
This is just a who's who of the last year of sets, right? It's a pirate for
Yep.
LCI, investigate for MKM, and now we're into double spelling here.
Yeah,
So
that's great. Let's see. I think that you're gonna play this. You play it on 2, you get it for 2. And in most blue-red decks, I think you will be able to double spell on turn 3. So unless they kill it right away, you're gonna get a clue. The clue then helps you double spell on later turns. Maybe this dies, but triggers your other things. Yeah, I'd give Malcolm B+.
I wrote B+ for myself, and as you were talking about it, I changed it to an A-, because
Okay.
this kind of reminds me of the Wojek 2/4 rare that we just saw.
Oh yes, the Wojek Investigator from
Yeah,
MKM.
yeah. Where like it was pretty good stats, had flying. You didn't always trigger the investigate, but you did often enough that it was like, and it's free. And that card was in the
Really,
A-
really good.
range. So.
Okay, yeah. I'll stick with my B+, but
Sure.
Yeah, I like it. Breaches, another pirate here. Breaches the Blastmaker. This is 1 blue-red for a legendary creature, Goblin Pirate at rare. It's a 3/3 Menace, and it says whenever you cast your second spell each turn, you may sacrifice an artifact. If you do, flip a coin. When you win the flip, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for that copy. When you lose the flip, Breaches deals damage equal to that spell's mana value to any target.
Yeah, so we had 2 Simic cards and now second of 3 Is It cards. And both flips are upside, just to be clear. So it's not like something bad's going to happen. And it's well statted 3-drop, like another good. I kind of like this theme. We saw this with MKM as well, where there was a lot of rares that we gave B plus or A minus to, and that's exactly what I want the rares to be. Like I'm very happy with this type of design.
Yeah, stacking an artifact is a little bit of an ask.
Yes.
Maybe no, not quite a lot of an ask, but a little bit more than a little bit of an ask. Like there's not a ton of treasure in this set. There are artifacts, but you know, you're sacking a card to do it. 3/3 Menace for 3 is just pretty good though.
Yeah, this things like C plus, B minus.
Yeah, someone's gonna go Malcolm into Breaches and have a really good time. Yeah, I think I like the C plus for Breaches here.
Sure.
All right, last blue-red card here. Lila, Undefeated Slick Shot. This is 1 blue-red. Legendary creature, human rogue at rare. She's a 3/3 prowess. And whenever you cast a multicolor instant or sorcery from your hand, exile that spell instead of putting it into your graveyard as it resolves. If you do, it becomes plotted.
Yeah, so it's kind of like giving your multicolored spells rebound ish.
Yeah.
When I first read this, I didn't clock the multicolored part, and I thought it was insane.
Yeah, it's nuts.
But there's not that many multicolored instants and sorceries that can trigger this. So this is kind of similar to the last card, where that, you know, for Breaches you needed a chunk of artifacts. For this one, you kind of need a chunk of multicolored instants and sorceries to really take advantage of it.
Yeah, there's Slick Sequence at uncommon. There's also, I think, a card or 2 on the bonus sheet that'll probably trigger her.
Hypothesis is one.
Hypothesis, yeah.
No.
Okay. 3/3 prowess. Like, let's just evaluate that. That's okay. 3/3 prowess is worse than 3/3 menace, I think.
Yeah, I think this is like a C.
Yeah, it clearly just scales with how many of these things. Like, if you've got 4 of them in your deck, and you know, you can just do it once, basically. If you do it once, do the thing once, you're happy about it.
That's true. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna give it a C plus.
Okay, yeah, I like C plus for Lila. All right, we got a Boros card here, a few of them. Tai Joaquin, Perfect Shot. Red, white. Oh, this is a really cool card. Red, white for a 2/3 legendary creature, human mercenary at rare. Whenever a source you control deals non-combat damage to a creature equal to that creature's toughness, draw a card. So you gotta line it up just right to draw that card. And has an ability to help you do that. X tap. If a source you control would deal non-combat damage to a permanent or player this turn, it deals that much damage plus X instead. Yes, kind of just sits there. If you, yeah, so you have to have some burn spells, and that's not always the easiest thing to do. Like in your red-white deck, sometimes the removal you pick up is the white removal. Although, the white removal in this set, at least one of them, does deal actual damage instead of just being like an exile or destroy.
There's also the instant Pyroclasm that hits
Sure.
that hits Outlaws and non-Outlaws, which
funny.
can potentially draw you a whole bunch of cards with this.
Yeah, that's kind of sick. And won't even kill this too, because it's a 2/3.
This also just works with deserts, right? Like if you just ping them, you can just pay X and like fireball them.
If a source you control deal, yeah, wow.
Yeah, so I mean, like that's relevant.
Holy, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
I have thought about this one a little bit.
That is something that piques my interest a little more than I was just gonna give it like a, you know, like a C plus B minus kind of card, but this is almost more of a land, like a desert build around, because you can just like turn your deserts into lava axes. Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty terrifying. Like, so, your opponent cannot let you keep this card around.
Needs a little bit of deck building, but only a little bit. You want to give this a build around B plus?
Well, I think you're just gonna have I don't think it's gonna be hard to find either deserts or burn spells.
Yeah, so we can just give it a grade and just, you know, make sure people out there are noting you do have to do a little bit of deck building to make it as good as it can possibly be.
I'm happy to just give this just a straight B plus.
Sure, yeah. B for Tywakeen. Yeah, really sweet card. We've got Bruce Tarl, Roving Rancher up next. This is 2 red white for a 4/3 legendary creature human warrior at rare. Oxen you control have double strike. Okay. And whenever Bruce Tarl enters the battlefield or attacks, exile the top card of your library. If it's a land card, create a 2/2 white ox creature token. Otherwise, you may cast that card until the end of your next turn. Wow.
So there are a few other oxen in the set, right? Like there's Bonnie Paul, which makes a huge one.
That's funny, yeah.
There's also the Holy Cow.
Yeah, that is an ox.
Which kind of nicely curves that into this and hit them for 4 in the air.
Yeah, I love the, again, 4-color, multicolor rare soup deck that we're dreaming up here. But yeah, this card's just great. Like, forget about other oxen in your deck. Comes in, either draws you a card and makes you a 2/2. Threatens to do it again.
I don't want to forget about the other oxen.
That's the fun part, yeah. So, either... It's funny, because in-game, you are going to prefer one over the other, and you can't really choose, right? You're going to be like, I wish this came in, it was a 4/3 and a 2/2, or I wish this drew me a card, because it did, this point of the game, 2/2 is whatever. Although 2/2 double strike, not whatever. So maybe you don't even care. Maybe you actually just always want the 2/2. Maybe the drawing a card is just worse.
Yeah, I think you always want the 2/2, because also, like, if you hit, like, a 5 or a 6 drop off this, you probably can't play it, and like it doesn't help you hit land drops.
True. Yeah.
So like the tension on your mana for hitting spells is just going to keep potentially getting harder to do.
Still great though.
But like that's not really a downside. This card's excellent.
No, we're just talking about the kind of corner cases here. A or A plus?
I don't think it's an A plus. I would say I think this is worse than Argus Cross or whatever it was from MKM.
Yes, I agree with that too. That thing just killed you so quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, want to give it just an A for Bruce Tarl?
I'm gonna go A minus.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. Riku of Many Paths. So there is quite a few 3-color legends in this set too, and this is the first of the ones that we're gonna see. Riku of Many Paths is a green, blue, red, so Teamer 3/3. It's a legendary creature, human wizard at rare. Whenever you cast a modal spell, choose up to X, where X is the number of times you chose the mode for that spell. Chose a mode for that spell, and it has a few modes here that you can choose, or a few like bullet points here. 1, exile the top card of your library until your turn you can play it, or put a +1/+1 counter on Riku of Many Paths against trample until on a turn, or you create a 1/1 blue bird creature token with flying.
Yeah, another one that's kind of hard to parse initially. So modal spells are basically things where you have to choose when you're casting them. So spree cards, commands, like anything that says, choose 1 or choose 2. And the number you can choose is going to be how many times you can trigger this, to just kind of explain the card again.
And I'm pretty sure it's just spree cards in this set.
In this set, yeah.
So it's like a spree build around. So if you cast this and then you cast a spree card, let's just say, you're doing the best thing you can do and you do one of the spree cards that has 3 modes. You put a counter on this, you get to draw a card, and you make a bird token. It's very good, but it's many hoops to jump through because it's a 3-color card and you need to have a spree card with this.
Yeah, I was gonna say there is Primal Command, but chat mentioned there's also Archmage's Charm.
Oh,
there are
that's
a couple random cards.
Okay. Yeah, on the bonus sheet. That's cute. Lower on this card, I think.
Yeah, it's hard to cast. It doesn't do anything the turn you cast it, and then you don't really want to have to save your modal spells to do after this. And the modal spells you do are mostly reactive as well, so like it might just not line up.
Yeah, I was thinking about the Phantom Interference, the blue counterspell at common, and yeah, you have to like wait till turn 5 to get full value out of that, or you could just. I guess you can't choose 2 modes until turn 5, so yeah, it's not great. Yeah, it seems like more of a week 3, 4, 5 kind of thing, like you get Riku and you're like, okay, like I see it. You're not gonna first pick this card and just like go for it. If you've got 4 modal cards in your deck and the mana base can support it, and you're not stretching your mana base to play this card, which is a lot of hoops again, I think it's okay. It's probably like a C+, B- there.
Yeah, I was just gonna give it like a D plus, just because
Just
it's
like
so
blanket, yeah.
niche. Yeah.
Yeah. No. That like I was gonna follow up with like a stamping or grade on it for the just general every draft you get into the average draft, and yeah, let's give it a D plus. Cool. Another 3-color legend here, Ariette the Beguiler. This is 1 white, blue, black for a 4/4 legendary creature, human warlock at rare. It's got lifelink, and it says whenever an aura you control becomes attached to a non-land permanent an opponent controls with mana value less than or equal to that aura's mana value, gain control of that permanent for as long as that aura is attached. So basically, you can turn all your auras into mind controls as long as they cost the same or the creature costs less than the aura.
Yeah, and this is not until Ariette leaves the battlefield, right? So even if they can't get like that blowout where you pump their stuff and boost it, and then they kill your Ariette and like blow you out in combat, you just get to keep them, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of the auras you'd be putting on things are like, I guess there's not even like a ton we saw, but the blue one taps the creature down. So like you can steal it, but unless it has a good ability, like what do you care?
Yep.
Yeah, so really you're looking at this as a hard to cast 4/4 lifelink, and 4/4 lifelink is good. I think again it's kind of like we said about Riku, where if you just got the mana base to support it, you were kind of in Esper already for some reason, and you see this card, you're like okay, like you can play it. Don't stretch your mana base for it, but 4/4 lifelink's okay.
Yeah, I'd give it like a C minus just because I prefer the lifelink text on this.
Yeah, a lot of these 3-color cards, I think if you're just parsing them and you're like, okay, how can I make this work? They're not necessarily intended for limited. I think these are the 3-color cards are commander cards, so don't think too hard about it. Although you can make it work if you really want to, if you're that kind of player. Marchesa Death Dealer up next. Grixis card here, blue, black, red for a 3/4 legendary creature, human rogue at rare. Whenever you commit a crime, you may pay 1. If you do, look at the top 2 cards of your library. Put one of them into your hand and the other into your graveyard. This one, I know just what I just said, but this one is meant for us, I would say.
Yeah, this one's good.
Yeah. It almost seems like it's missing a line of text. It feels like in 2024 it should have like something else, but it doesn't need anything else. It's good. It is just a good card. Whenever you cast a removal spell or whatever, or any crime committing, pay 1, draw a card with selection. Yeah, that's a good card.
Yeah, this is one like I won't hate first picking this.
No, I was gonna say this is one I would kind of take relatively early. Make sure you pick up fixing for.
Yep.
Yeah. Want to give her a B plus, a B?
B plus.
Yeah. B
yeah,
plus.
just for the casting cost.
Yep, I like it. Really weird card here. Obeka, Splitter of Seconds. 1 blue, black, red for a 2/5 legendary creature, ogre warlock at rare. It's got Menace. And whenever Obeka, Splitter of Seconds, deals combat damage to a player, you get that many additional upkeep steps after this phase. Very, very strange card. So I don't think there's too much we've seen so far, common and uncommon, where it's just like you get to do a cool thing on your upkeep. So I think this is probably going to be closer to an F than not.
Yeah, like it's a creature with stats, so it's probably like a D minus, but you can just give it an F.
Yeah, sweet. I'm down for that. Gyrid, Mirror of the Wilds. This is a red, green, white 3/3 legendary creature, human shaman at Mythic. It's got haste, and it says non-token creatures you control have tap. Create a token that's a copy of target token creature that entered the battlefield this turn.
Not token creature. It's can be a copy of any token.
Oh, sorry. Okay, cool. So yeah, it works with your investigate tokens, your treasures.
Yeah, so the dream with this, we had Dance of the Tumbleweeds yesterday. That's making like a 5/5 for 7/7 token.
Yep.
And in that case, every creature you have can make another one of those things.
Okay, that's kind of interesting.
If not, like if it's just a treasure and you're doing it on your turn, there's certainly some tension where like you can't just tap your entire board to make a bunch of treasures because you're probably just gonna die.
Yeah.
But the applications of this is pretty interesting. Like this is one of the real ones again.
Yeah, it's when you do the thing once and you've got a reasonable board, like let's say you even have 2 other creatures. That's big. It's a bit of a build. It's definitely a build around. You have to consider it.
Yeah.
Haste is kind of funny too. Like
Haste is good on that. I mean, there's the plot thing that makes an XX equal to your greatest power, right? Like that.
Yeah, if it wasn't clear when if you're just listening and just parsing this, like Gearhead does do this itself, right? Not it has haste. It can tap the turn it comes in to do the thing.
So like I do think this needs a build around grade because this one
Yes.
you can play a 3/3 haste for 3, but I think you want to trigger that second ability.
Yeah, so like build around B?
Yeah, I'm gonna go. Yeah, sure, build around B. I think
Okay.
it's a bit better than that, but the grade's probably fair for the fail case too. So
Yeah, this is the limitations of the grading system where it's like we'd have to give it so many subgrades if it's like, well, it's 3 colors and also you have to build around it. And also like, it's all these little things. So very much like an approximate power level thing when you do the thing. Don't take the and like we always say, and I didn't say this at the beginning of today's episode, but we did yesterday. The grades are the stamp on it. The conversation is way more important. All right. Annie joins up next. 1 green, red, white for a legendary enchantment at rare. When it enters the battlefield, it deals 5 damage to target creature or planeswalker an opponent controls. And it says if you trigger an ability of a legendary creature you control, that ability triggers an additional time.
yeah, I have not looked through the set to see how interesting that second ability is. I mean, the first card that pops to mind is Bonnie Paul again.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the Ox might be legendary though, so that might not even work.
It is.
But
It has a name. It's Bo. Don't forget it.
yeah, okay, but this is still 4 mana, 5 damage, which is not great, but not the worst.
Right. Yeah, and I think a lot of these 3-color cards are going to be a little bit more kind of like I mentioned before. You're going through the draft. Maybe you even have these 3-color cards in your pile, and you're trying to figure out what 2 are your base, and you see this, and it's like, okay, like I got this 7th pick. Nobody else can play it. I'll pick it up. It's fine. Probably about a C.
Yeah, I wrote C minus,
Okay.
so it's very, very similar. Yeah.
And here she is, Annie Flash, the veteran. This is 3 red, green, white for a legendary creature human rogue at Mythic. She's a 4/5 flash creature. And when she enters the battlefield, if you cast it, return target permanent card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. And then when she becomes tapped, exile the top 2 cards of your library. You can play those cards this turn.
Wow.
That's a lot. That's a lot of stuff. So, a big, reasonably large flash creature. That's just good. That comes back and brings something back. That's also very good. And she attacks and draws cards.
Oh, it doesn't even have to attack, right? She can crew and mount, like
yeah.
just like the stuff we talked about before.
What's not to like?
This one is an A minus again.
Yeah, I think so. You're gonna get most likely like 6, 7 or more worth of stats when you cast this, because I feel it's pretty unlikely that by the time you get to 6 mana, you're not gonna have a 2-drop in your graveyard. So she looks a little bit understated, but you're getting the stats with the ability. Yeah,
and
I like
across 2 bodies, which is always great.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, I like it. We've got Kellen joins up next. This is a Bant card, green, blue, white for a legendary enchantment at rare. When it enters the battlefield, you can exile a non-land card with mana value 3 or less from your hand. If you do, it becomes plotted. And it says whenever a legendary creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control.
Yeah, this is the best legendary text out of the cycle, I think.
Yeah, but probably some of the worst cast text, right? Like, it's not that impactful. You get to plot something. This is free if you want to look at it that way, as far as like total mana spent over the course of the game.
So this one, it's free, but so you do need to trigger that second ability at least once.
So it's like a legend build around.
Yeah, I think it's another build around grade for this one.
Okay. Because, if you just... It costs a card. It doesn't cost mana, and we're kind of saying that liberally here. Of course, it does cost mana, but, it doesn't cost mana, quote-unquote. So, would you play a card that said your legendary creature... Like the bottom text. Would you play a card that just said your legendary creatures get that ability when you cast them? Put a +1/+1 counter on your creatures. That's okay.
If you have enough legends, it's...
Yeah. And enough is like 4, 5, 6. Maybe even more.
You probably honestly even need a bit more.
Yeah, because
like
you want to do it twice.
7.
Yeah.
And if you hit that number, I think you're gonna play this. So it's like a build around like B- type of thing.
Yeah. I'm in for that. Yeah, but just be careful. Make sure you have that number of legendary creatures.
Yeah.
All right, Kellen the Kid up next. This is green, white, blue for a 3/3 legendary creature, human fairy rogue at Mythic. It's got flying and lifelink. So 3 mana, 3/3 flying lifelink, pretty good. Whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, you may cast a permanent spell with equal or lesser mana value from your hand without paying its mana cost. If you don't do this, you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield.
Yeah, I don't think that huge block of text is that relevant.
That's okay.
Because by the time you can cast this, like it might be later than turn 3. So how many cheap spells do you still have in your hand after like plotting? So yeah, I don't think that text is super relevant, but it's a 3/3 flying lifelink for 3.
Yeah, just like a lot of these other 3-color cards, if you think you can cast it, sure, put it in your deck, but it's not a card you should stretch your mana for generally.
Like a C plus?
Yeah, I like Z plus for Killing the Kid. All right, that's gonna bring us to monocolor cards now. We got a pretty nice one here to start out with. Final Showdown. This is a Mythic Spree card, so it's a single white mana to start out with. It's an instant, and the Spree modes are +1 mana. All creatures lose all abilities until end of turn. Plus another 1 mana. Choose a creature you control. It gains indestructible until end of turn. Plus 5 mana, 3 white. Destroy all creatures. So we've got a really, really nice Wrath here, where you've got 6 mana, destroy all creatures. That's not great. That's pretty rough. You've got the first ability, which has all creatures lose all abilities. And it might be strange being like, why? Okay, if they're losing all abilities, why am I making something indestructible? Well, the way that spells resolve, modal spells work, is they actually go in order. So all creatures are going to lose all abilities, and then the thing you want to gain indestructible will gain indestructible, and then you destroy all creatures.
Yeah, so that first ability is not usually going to be that relevant unless there's like death triggers.
Or, yeah, other indestructible creatures, potentially. If you've got the mana, you probably want to do it to play around, like take up the shield.
That's reason. Yes, that is very fair.
Yeah.
I take it back. That could be very relevant. Yeah, but mostly this is going to be either 6 or 7 mana to either just like instant speed Wrath or whatever the Wrath where you could save one of your creatures. Doom Blast.
Doom Blast, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, it's an instant too. Like that.
Oh yeah.
That's actually pretty wild.
Does cost triple white.
Yes.
And it's a mythic, but pretty good card.
Yeah, pretty darn good card. And especially because we were mentioning yesterday that white is a little bit more controlling in the set than it usually is. It does play nicely into white's game plan. I think.
And it also does, like, if you're just getting run over, this also does like a bad take up the shield impression, right? Like this could just be 2 mana. 2 mana gives something indestructible.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, and I don't think we've seen any, but if just worth noting, if there's any creatures that like that they set their power and toughness, like a star creature based on like how many lands you control. Actually, the Ox, right? The Ox from Bonnie Paul. This kills. You can go 2 mana kill the Ox because it loses all abilities, so it just dies. It's kind of funny. You want to get?
I think if your opponents cast Bonnie Paul, you're probably going to want to Wrath.
That is true. You know, yeah.
You do you, Alex.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll do it on stream. Be like, look at my intricate rules knowledge, chat. Isn't this so smart? Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to give this an A?
It's expensive.
It is.
I'll go A minus.
Okay.
I'm not going to go as high as A.
I'll keep it as an A. Next one, also pretty nice. Dust Animus. This is 1 and a white for a rare 2/3 flyer. So already pretty good. If you control 5 or more untapped lands, Dust Animus enters the battlefield with 2 +1/+1 counters and a lifelink counter on it. And it's got plot for 1 and a white.
I have a feeling that people are going to read this card, they're going to understand this card, and then they're still going to have like brain fart moments where on turn 5, they're like, okay, I'm going to do this, but I'll do it like post-combat and then cast a combat trick and put it in and not have 5 untapped lands.
Yeah, that's a great point.
So just be very careful with this. This is your reminder for the whole set. You need to keep your lands untapped.
I feel like I'm going to do that at some point. I'll just have to listen back to this 7 times. But yeah, this card's great.
Yeah, like plot is the way you're supposed to do this, but you can also just cast it on turn 7+ with 5 untapped lands. Like huge flying lifelinker. I've talked yesterday about how much I love lifelink. That has not changed since yesterday. I love this card.
Yeah, it's modal. You want to give this a minus?
Yeah, I almost think this one's just an A.
Yeah, just good enough.
But I guess it doesn't have any protection. But like plot, okay,
Cheap
I'll
plot.
go A minus. But I really like this card.
Yeah, I mean, I do too. Next up, we've got High Noon. This is probably going to be a quick one. 1 red for an enchantment at rare. Each player can't cast more than 1 spell each turn. It's got an ability, 4 in a red, sack High Noon. It deals 5 damage to any target.
Yeah, not a. I mean, this could be a sideboard card against the double spell deck, I guess.
Cute.
But I was going to give it an F.
Yeah, I will join you. Another round. XX2 white. Weird mana cost. For a sorcery at rare, exile any number of creatures you control, then return them to the battlefield under their owner's control. Then you repeat this process X times. So a little hard to parse, but basically it's 3 mana, blink any number of things you have, and 5 mana to blink anything twice, and 7 mana to blink them 3 times. Basically get to reuse all your enter the battlefield effects, or save from a removal spell. More of a commander card than anything, I would say.
Yeah, if this was an instant, it might be interesting, but I think it's
sorcery. I didn't even know. Yeah, I read that, but I completely didn't like take it in. Yeah, no, I'm not in for this as a sorcery. All right.
Yeah.
F, D minus.
Yep.
Yeah, sure.
No, like even as an instant, I think this would be close to an F.
Yep. All right. Aven Interrupter up next. 1 white for a 2/2 bird rogue at rare. It's got flash and flying, and when it enters the battlefield, exile target spell. It becomes plotted. It also says spells your opponents cast from graveyards or from exile cost 2 more to cast.
Yeah, so that affects all your opponent's plot cards, not just the one you hit with this.
Yeah.
And it also affects all of their like Wolverine cards or like from the +2/+0 thing.
Yeah, all the red impulse straw cards. And there's actually a lot of red impulse straw in this set too.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one's great.
Oh yeah.
It'd be really, really annoying to like it. It sort of has that like remand or memory lapse feel, and if anybody hasn't played with those cards before, which is just they say counter target spell, put them on top or put them back in your opponent's hand. It doesn't actually counter them for good, but it just delays them, makes them recast them. That like not getting your spell when you want it can sometimes be backbreaking, right? Because sometimes you're just gonna cast this on 3. They cast their 3, you cast this in response. That's great. They have to then spend 2 mana to recast it. And then sometimes it's like, okay, I'm casting my combat trick. And it's like, nope, you tapped out for something else, cast a trick, you don't get to win the combat, I get to eat your creature. That combat trick's probably not going to be as effective later. So timing specific spells really get foiled by this kind of card.
Well, yeah, the combat trick not only is it going to be not as effective later, it has to be cast as a sorcery later.
Oh yeah, right. I didn't even know. Yeah, true. 100%.
So like combat tricks, chat's talking about counter spells, same thing. If you hit a counter spell on this, they just can't even use it.
Hard counters it. Yeah, cool.
Yeah,
it's a really annoying card. I think this is probably in the A range as well.
Yeah. I think this is just an A.
Yep, I like A for Aven Interrupter. Next up, we've got Claim Jumper. This is 2 white for a 3/3 Rabbit Mercenary at rare. It's got Vigilance. When it enters the battlefield, if an opponent controls more lands than you, you may search your library for a Plains card, put it on the battlefield tapped. Then if an opponent controls more lands than you, repeat the process. If you search your library this way, shuffle.
So the existence of the Karoo in this set is good if you have it, bad if they have it.
Oh, the land, the land that makes you pick up something and taps for colorless. Yeah,
yeah, like that's pretty. If you go like turn 1,
that's
land,
really cool.
Turn 2, bounce your land, turn 3, Plains, cast this. Like, it's pretty sweet.
Yeah, that's a commander land of play there. And just it's a good card on the draw. Sometimes, like not always. I say that, but it's weird because you're like, oh, if I'm on the draw, I'm gonna have less lands. But if you like, let's say your opponent plays their land on turn 4, cast something, you untap, you play this, and you get a land. Well, maybe you waste the mana basically, right? Because you don't get to cast this 4-drop. But
on turn 4, you can go 3+2.
These come in it comes in taps though.
Oh, it is tapped. Sorry, it is tapped.
Yeah, can't
you're
do
right.
that.
Yeah, it'd be 3+1. Okay, yeah, you're right. Sorry.
Yeah, you have to go 3+1. So you get a land, but maybe at the cost of not being able to spend all your mana each turn. And sometimes it's good. Sometimes
it's definitely worse.
yeah,
you're right about that.
sometimes you like that though. It's decent. It's not amazing. It's a solid card. I think I'd give Claim Jumper a C+.
C+. I think I'm gonna go
A little higher.
No, you're probably right. It's
Okay.
probably C+.
Cool. Fortune Loyal Steed up next. This is 2 and a white for a 2/4 legendary creature beast mount at rare. When it enters the battlefield, you scry 2. Whenever Fortune attacks while saddled, at the end of combat, you exile it. And you also exile up to 1 target creature that's saddled this turn. You return both the cards to the battlefield under its owner's control, and you saddle 1. Or saddle cost is 1.
Yeah, this thing's nice.
That's cool. Yeah, like 3 mana, 2/4, scry 2. I'm almost just like kind of into that. Like that's an okay card. And you get to reuse them to the battlefield effects. It also attacks pretty well. Hard to, your opponent probably has to double block this to get it off the battlefield. Hard to do that early. Yeah, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, I want to give this like B.
Yeah, I was gonna go B-. But
That's what that was my second option.
Cool. Yeah, let's do that. Let's do B- for Fortune. One last job. So dramatic. This is another spree card. 2 and a white for a sorcery at rare. 3 spree modes here. +2 mana. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. +1 mana. Return target mount or vehicle card from your graveyard to the battlefield. +1 mana. Return target aura or equipment card from your graveyard to the battlefield and attach it to target creature you control.
Yeah, nifty card.
Yeah, so like
kind of expensive though.
You're not happy. You're not that happy if you just go like 5 mana reanimate something. So I think you really have to get 2 things. So it's like a card for the mount / a deck with mount decks or a deck with vehicles in it. I'm not.
Yeah, like 5 mana reanimate is not great.
Yeah, I'm not super impressed with this. You want to just give this
I do think you need mounts and vehicles for it to be a card you play. I don't think you just play it for the reanimate side.
Yeah, so like
so is it a build around grade or is it just giving a regular grade?
It's like a build around
or like a synergy grade, I guess.
Synergy B- maybe for a deck with a lot of mounts.
Yeah,
because 6 mana bring back 2 things is good, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, sweet. Last white card here, a Mythic. Archangel of Ties. This one's a reprint. 1 white for a 3/5 Angel at Mythic. It's got flying, as angels do. As long as Archangel of Ties is untapped, creatures can't attack you or planeswalkers you control unless their controller pays 1 for each of those creatures. As long as Archangel of Ties is attacking, creatures can't block unless their controller pays 1 for each of those creatures.
And this is much harsher than it seems.
Yes, absolutely. Anytime you tax your opponent for an attack, like I said, it's just much better than it might look if you haven't played with these kind of cards before. So, yeah, because what happens often is you'll play this when the opponent's tapped out as the aggressive deck, and then they just can't block, right? Like, they go... You play this, you attack with your 2 and your 3, like, they don't have mana. They literally cannot.
No, that's... So, this thing needs to be
Sorry, my bad. Yeah, I was thinking of a different card. that kind of works that way. You can't do that. I'm wrong. But your opponent really has to think about where they want to spend their mana the turn after. Right? Because it's like...
Yeah, if your opponent's, like, leaves up mana, you don't have to attack. And then you just add to your board, and then next turn, do they, like, catch up, or do they leave up mana again? Well, if they catch up and tap out, you can just, like, kill them.
Yeah, I do want to note the downsides of being a white card, a little bit hard to cast on turn 4, and also being a 4 mana creature with no protection, no enter the battlefield effect. Gotta keep calling that out. And those do balance the card. I remember playing this card, and this was a Magic Origins, I believe. And you'd first pick it, and sometimes just couldn't make your deck. Even in like you'd be like a red-white deck, but you only ended up with like 4 white cards at the end or something like that. And it happens sometimes. You just can't justify the card. So, got some problems, for sure. But I would give it a reasonably high grade still. Just like a B-.
Yeah, I was going to give it a B+.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to stay with my B-, but
okay,
cool card. All right, brings us to blue. First blue card is this Spree card, 3 steps ahead. It's a single blue mana instant. The spree modes, 3 of them here. Plus 1 in a blue, counter target spell, so you basically get a cancel. Plus 3 mana, create a token that's a copy of target artifact or creature you control. Plus 2 mana, draw 2 cards, then discard a card. Wow.
Yeah, so this, I'm going to take this opportunity to talk about something we quickly mentioned at the beginning of this call before we started recording.
Yeah.
So I know we're probably going to go long, but
No, that's okay.
I think it's worth mentioning. So I do think that this like blue draw go deck is actually like pretty real, and this is an excellent reason to go into it. Like this card's very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And I was checking the YouTube comments on your videos this morning to kind of get a pulse check of where we were at, and there was a comment about the 4 mana 4/4 flash that enters the battlefield tapped that we gave a D to yesterday. And I think that, you know, it's not often that I go back and YouTube changes my mind on a card, but I thought about that card a little more, and I think the deck really just wants to leave up mana on every possible turn it can with cards like this in it.
I think so
and then
too.
the thing that punishes your opponent for not playing into your counterspell is being able to add to your board and develop with a creature. And even like a mid-sized creature would have been good enough, but a 4/4 for 4 is pretty punishing for opponent who decides to play around a quench.
Mm-hmm.
And this is another example of just a great piece for that deck. I think this card's really good. I think the modes are all really good. Like you're usually going to be countering something, but the more mana you have, the better it gets. And I want to give this thing a pretty high grade.
Yeah, me too. And basically the point of that combo was just like, yeah, we probably underrated the 4/4 a little bit, and maybe, you know, if anybody thinks that, then you're probably right. So what do you want to give 3 steps ahead? I'll give you the first crack at it.
I want to give this, like, it's normally just going to be a cancel, which sounds weird to give like such a high grade to. I'm going to give it an A-.
Yeah, no, I'm right with you. I agree. Card's great. It's just so modal, so good. Like, cancel's the kind of card that it doesn't need. It's like just cancel is not quite good enough. But when you add a little something, like we've seen it before, you add a surveil, you add a little something here and there, it gets a lot better. And this is a little something. So yeah, I like A- or 3 steps ahead. Archmage's Newt is up next. 1 in a blue for a 2/2 salamander mount at rare. Whenever Archmage's Newt deals combat damage to a player, target instant or sorcery card in your graveyard gains flashback until end of turn. The flashback cost is equal to its mana cost. That card gains flashback 0 until end of turn if Archmage's Newt was saddled, and the saddle cost is 3.
I'm kind of curious to hear your thoughts on this card first.
I don't like this card very much.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's pretty. It's a 2/2 that your opponent is very much going to not want to let you get this in, and it's not very difficult for them to stop you. I think this is mostly just a 2/2 for 2 on most board states.
Yeah, and like flashing back for 0 doesn't work with spree. Like
Right.
you can't. And it's pretty tough to have both. Like the turn that this might get in is early in the game, right? But you need to have an instant or sorcery in your graveyard, and you need to saddle 3 for it. The one redeeming hope for this, there is the time ebb that can also, like the spree thing that can also give something +1/+1 and unblockable.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's kind of cool.
So there's a way to like push this through, and I don't think it's just like a 2/2 with no text on it. But I was gonna give this like a C kind of thing.
I was gonna give it a little bit lower. I was gonna give it like a D.
A D?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? It's normally just a 2/2 for 2. It is a mount, which is a bit of upside.
That is true. Yeah, D+ maybe.
Okay, you go to D+, I'll go to C-. We'll kind of we'll meet a little bit in the middle.
I also will point it out for people who care about this kind of thing, like I do. This is the first instance of blue getting a bear, like a 2-mana 2/2 with no downside. Power creep. Power creep is real. All right. Oh, we got Nathan Sawyer's Invitational card here. No joke. This is actually Nathan Sawyer's Invitational card. Duelist of the Mind. 1 in a blue for a human advisor at rare. It's an X3 and has flying and vigilance. Duelist of the Mind's power is equal to the number of cards you've drawn this turn. Whenever you commit a crime, you may draw a card, and if you discard a card, only triggers once per turn, though.
I wonder if Nathan knew that he would be encouraging crime.
Yeah, just forever ingrained in the legacy of Magic as the crime committer.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a pretty cool card,
Yeah,
though.
excellent player and pretty good card too.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's gonna like attack for 2 pretty consistently with vigilance on your turn, and it's gonna be a 0-3 blocker on the opponent's turn with the threat of. Well, actually, if you talk about your no not tapping out deck, I guess we haven't seen that much instant speed card draw.
There's like the inspiration, like the counter spell is also an inspiration.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
Or not the counter spell, the thing that makes something a 0/1, right? Is also
Yep.
an inspiration.
Yeah, draw 2.
So it's possible.
Yeah, it reminds me a little bit of Ledger Shredder in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, card's good. Not like just like super busted, and gets better if you just have some card draw in there. But yeah, I think I'd give Duelist of the Mind a B+.
That's what I wrote as well. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. The key to the vaults is a 1 and a blue legendary equipment at rare. It says whenever the equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, look at that many cards from the top of your library. You may exile a non-land card from among them, put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. You may cast the exile card without paying its mana cost. Equip cost is 2 in the blue.
I think this thing's bad.
Yeah, I think this thing's quite bad. Doesn't augment your stats. It's kind of like the salamander, but worse because it's not it's not a creature, right? Just like your opponent's like, all right, I see that coming from a mile away. I will try my best to block that. Like, I guess you could put this on a flyer, and then maybe, but even still, like you're still paying 5 mana. Like, you get to cast a spell for free, but you're paid 5 mana, so you kind of have to do it twice to really feel like you're doing it. I think this is basically enough.
I was going to give it enough as well.
Yeah.
And even if you put it on your flyer, flyers are usually smaller. So if you're only hitting for like 1 or 2, you might just flip 2 lands.
Yeah.
And
yeah. I think just like as the game becomes a little more, design becomes a little more commander focused when you're reading rares, like always just ask yourself, like, does this make sense as a commander card? And if the answer is yes, you probably don't have to think about it for that long, honestly. And
that's a bit of an exaggeration, but okay.
Well, you disagree?
Like some of the 3-color cards we saw, the thing that triggers off committing crimes, like
sure,
these 3-color legends are usually produced for commander, and most of them you can skip, but some of them some of them are good.
Let me rephrase that because I think you're right. If you're wondering, this card seems bad, I don't get it, what's going on here? It's probably a commander card.
Sure.
Yeah, okay. And yes, Chaz points out that there are some commander cards that are busted. All right, Jace Reawakened, the second planeswalker here. Blue, only 2 mana for a Mythic Jace Planeswalker. It's got 3 loyalty. It's got a static ability of you can't cast this spell during your first, second, or third turn of the game. So, a downside. +1, draw a card and then discard a card. Another +1, you can exile an online card with mana value 3 or less from your hand. If you do, it becomes plotted. -6, until end of turn, whenever you cast a spell, copy it. And you may choose new targets for the copy.
I don't think this thing's very good either.
No, it's like a looting machine, but who cares? I mean, not who cares, but it's not that impressive. Yeah, this is a constructed card, I would say.
Like, well, I don't think it's that bad. I would give it like a D+.
Yeah.
I think I'll play this a couple times in the format.
Yeah, you're gonna play it sometimes. Yeah, a D+ sounds about right to me.
Okay,
cool. Thibblethip, Lost on the Range. This is 1 blue for a legendary creature, Homunculus at rare. It's a 1/1 ward 2. And it says you may look at the top card of your library at any time. The top card of your library has plot. The plot cost is equal to its mana value. You may plot non-land cards from the top of your library.
Yeah, this card's interesting. Like that ward 2 goes a long way on this.
It does, yeah. Sort of like a Future Sight-ish card, basically. You draw some cards at the top of your librry. Can't play lands, of course.
Yeah, because you're not going to attack with this. You're not going to block with it. So it basically is just like an enchantment.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
But it better than that because it does have stats.
Mm-hmm. You can block with it at some point, right?
Yeah, you can take up the shield this.
Yeah.
You can Skullduggery and eat a 2/2 with this. Like you can.
It's a bit of a tricky one, I think, to evaluate because like you don't generally want to play it on 3, I would say.
Yeah, probably not, but it's not the worst.
No, it's not the worst. Yeah.
Well, it's pretty bad on 3, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's enchantment. It like doesn't do anything. So if you're considering a later game card, yeah, I like it, but I don't love it. Like, I think this is going to average out to... There's going to be games that is great, and it's going to really take over, and there's going to be games where you're just like, I really wish this was any other card. And I think that's going to average out to, like, a C or a C+.
Okay, I wrote C- as my grade.
Yeah, I'll give it a
Would
C.
you want? Okay.
Yeah, like I said, it's going to be... There are some cards that they perform basically about the same every game. Just plug and play, you know what they're going to do. This is not one of those cards, and it's going to have its peaks and valleys, so got to account for that. All right.
So,
oh yeah, good.
Okay, yeah, I was just gonna say this kind of like the ability is kind of similar to Case of the Locked Hothouse, except you can't like get through a chunk of land,
yeah.
and you can't do it, and they don't come into play, right? It's like on a 1 turn delay.
Yeah, the more I look at it, honestly, the more I dislike it, because like you don't even get to draw, like, play the card right away. I'm actually gonna go. This card's not good.
I will stick with my C-. No, you know what? Fine, I'll go down. Are we going down to D+?
I'm gonna go D+. Yeah.
Okay, we'll go down to D+.
Yeah, I'm happy to be wrong about this, but yeah, Chat's case is great. I agree. Case is great. It's not Case though. All right. Drelf the Fleshwright. This is a 2 in a blue, 2/3 mythic human warlock legendary creature. Whenever you cast a spell during your turn other than your first spell that turn, you make a 2/2 blue and black zombie rogue token. And whenever a zombie enters the battlefield under your control, you put a +1/+1 counter on it for each zombie that entered the battlefield under your control this turn.
Mm-hmm. So your second spell gets you a 2/2, your third spell gets you a 3/3, etc., etc.
Yeah. And I think often what you're going to want to do this is double spell with it on turn 5. So you get your zombie.
Well, you can plot too, right? Like
yeah, plot of course. Yeah, it's a joke, right?
And I think there's also like the Stitcher also makes zombies too, so there's potentially even more triggers that you can do with this.
Okay.
I don't know if there's any other zombies, but I remember that one at least. I think is a zombie.
Yeah, there's 1 or 2 other ones.
But still, it's most of the time it's just going to be a 2/3 for 3. It's like on turn 3, it's not doing anything.
You think so? Yeah, you're right on that last thing you said, but I think you're pretty consistently going to have this just be like a 2/3 and a 2/2.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if does this need a build around or synergy grade, because you kind of, well, I guess you don't need. Okay, I should finish my thought.
Yeah, for sure.
You can play this on turn 4 with 1-drops, but a lot of the 1-drops are reactive. Whenever you cast it. So that works, and then plot works. And if you trigger this once, you're happy. So yeah, it's good. I don't think it's in the A category though. I think this is like a B+.
Yeah, I was gonna give it a B+, because I think you're gonna, with plot or just a cheap spell, like I said, I think you're gonna be very, like, pretty consistently making a 2/2 off of this the turn you do it, turn you cast it, and then you're just happy about that. Like, we give these kind of cards in the B range, the comes with a friend kind of cards, and this one has upside.
This is kind of, so you know how yesterday I was just kind of default giving all plot cards a slight bump that were cheap?
Yeah.
One of them was the uncommon 1 and a white 0/0 that
It's
you
counters.
can, yeah, it gets counters. And was that one? Yeah, that was cast for 3, plot for 2, or was it the other way around?
Yep.
Anyway, okay.
You got it right.
I thought it was plot for 2, and if it is plot for 2, then curving that into this is actually pretty nice.
Yeah. I like this card. I'm going to give this a B+.
Okay.
Yeah. I think your opponent has to kill it. Ooh, here's a good rare for your blue flash deck. Stoic Sphinx. I'm saying like your blue flash deck, but I also love these kind of like blue leave your mana up kind of decks. Stoic Sphinx, 2 blue for a 5/3 rare Sphinx. It's got flash and flying, and it has hexproof as long as you haven't cast a spell this turn. Ooh, very cool card.
Very interesting card. So you can kill it the turn it comes down.
Mm-hmm.
Like always.
Yep.
But after that, it's to be determined.
Yeah, I think pretty often you're just going to like pass a turn on turn 4. Your opponent wants to spend all their mana, so they go, okay, tap out for it. you cast this, and then you're clocking your opponent real quick. It is like the hexproof is like usually when you see hexproof on your card on a card, you feel very safe, but it's a little bit less safe. That's a pretty meaningful, like, you haven't cast a spell this turn, right? That is not going to happen all that often. If you're ahead already, sorry, I should clarify here. There's a whole deck built around that. I'm trying to say that you will often want to cast other spells, and not casting a spell is still a cost. So it's a great card if you're ahead. Fantastic. Like, you probably just win if you're just like slightly ahead on the race, because it just clocks them so quickly. And it's still a good card if you're not.
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard not to be ahead with a 5-power flyer. For 1 minute.
Right. I'm just saying, like, ahead enough that you don't feel pressured into casting spells to react to your opponent's board. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And, like, whenever you catch your opponent with their pants down, like, that's the thing, too, with this card. You're presenting this gigantic threat. They're going to be forced to commit to the board to try to race you. And then that leaves shields down so you can cast some spells.
Yeah. I think this thing might just be like an A.
Yeah. No, I'm kind of talking on some downsides here, some corner cases. But, yeah, I was just going to give it an A, too.
Okay.
Cool. All right, we've got Double Down. This is 3 and a blue for an enchantment at Mythic. Whenever you cast an outlaw spell, copy this spell. So we saw a very similar card to this in Crimson Vow. It was Necro Duality or something like that, where it copied your zombie spells. And I think there's more outlaws in this set than there was zombies in that set. And this that was a very good card.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is like build around A.
Yep, build around A. Totally agree.
Yeah.
Especially because plotting, right? You go plot on 3, cast this, cast your thing. You just get the copies right away.
Yeah, I can't do an immediate count on how many plotted things are outlaws, but I'm sure there's, like, the Wolverine's not.
Yeah.
And so some of the 3-mana ones might not be, but yeah, if you can, that's going to be great.
Chat does bring up a good point that when we're thinking of outlawed, like, we brought up the number of, like, 43% of creatures are outlaws. A lot of those are legendary, though, right? So that might be a little something that you have to consider.
Yeah, I still think that even if you take those out, the numbers for this are probably similar to Necro Duality, and that card was like a build around A. And
yep.
Yeah.
I like it. Cool. All right, last blue card here. Step Between Worlds. 3 blue for a sorcery at rare. Each player may shuffle their hand and graveyard into their library. Each player who does this draws 7 cards. Exile Step Beyond Worlds. Plot 4 blue.
F?
Yeah, that's a time twister. It's weird. Yeah, you can't. Not even good at Vintage Cube. You can't even combo with Narset. Yeah, all right. F and move on to black. Insatiable Avarice is our first black card. It's a spree card. Single black mana for a sorcery at rare. Plus 2 mana. Search your library for a card, then shuffle and put it on top. Plus black mana. Target player draws 3 cards and loses 3 life.
Yeah, when this thing was first spoiled, it was one of the first spree cards I saw, and I thought you could just, like, pay like 7 black mana and just kill your opponent. And I was like, oh, this is kind of cool for mono black, but that's not the case. And I don't think this card is very good.
No, it's like losing life is the opposite of what you want to do when you're drawing cards. And 3 is a lot. 3 is a decent number of cards, but you get to, like, if you pay 5 mana, you get to tutor the best card in your deck, but it's still just, like, not great.
I'm gonna give this an F. Are you gonna join me, or do you want to go higher?
I'm gonna go I would give it a D-. Like, I don't think it's quite an F, but Tiny Bones joins up. Single black mana for an enchantment at rare. When Tiny Bones joins up, when Tiny Bones joins up, enters the battlefield. I also want to be like, when Tiny Bones joins up, it does this. No, when Tiny Bones joins up, enters the battlefield. Any number of target players each discard a card. Whenever a legendary creature enters the battlefield under your control, any number of target players each mill a card and lose a life. Another F?
I am slightly higher on this. It commits a crime, and if you can get them to lose a couple life, maybe, but it's close to an F.
Yeah.
I'll switch around I'll give this one a D-, and you can be the F.
Okay, cool. Then we have Tiny Bones. Tiny Bones himself. Tiny Bones is the pickpocket. Single black mana for a 1/1 legendary creature. Skeleton Rogue at Mythic. Tiny Bones has Death Touch, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you can cast target non-land permanent card from that player's graveyard, and mana of any type can be spent to cast that spell.
Yeah. not like that different from the 1/1 Death Touch snake yesterday.
Right. Yeah. I don't think this card's great. Like it's
C plus.
a fairly minor upgrade on the snake. Yeah, C plus. Like it has types, and your opponent does have to block it. But yeah, let's give it a C plus. Caustic Bronco up next. One of these weird snake horse mounts. It's 1 in a black for a 2/2. It's a rare, and it's a mount, like I said. When it attacks, reveal the top card of your library and put it into your hand. You lose life equal to that card's mana value if Caustic Bronco isn't saddled. Otherwise, each opponent loses that much life. So if it's, and the saddle cost is 3. So if it's saddled, your opponent takes the hit. If not, you kind of Dark Confidant yourself.
Yeah, this card's kind of sweet.
Yeah, it's a cool card.
I do think that you really you will really prioritize 3 power 3 drops with this card.
3 power 3 drop. Yeah, so you can like saddle it, dome them. It hits, it attacks, hits them for a few points maybe. Yeah, so like how often are you going to just like send this in on turn? Basically always, right? You have no real worry about like not saddling it. Sure, you might take a few damage, but you also could just hit a land, and even taking a bit of damage might not be that bad.
Yeah, like as long as this has a clean attack in the early game, you're always attacking,
Yeah.
right? And then in the late game, you can probably, saddle it safely and then potentially just win the game. And there's a number of combat tricks that makes attacking somewhat safer. So I think this card's quite good.
Yeah, what do you want to give it?
I think I'm gonna give it a B plus.
Ooh, I was gonna go that high. I was gonna go like a B minus.
Okay. We can leave it there. That's.
But I don't want to fight. Yeah, I'll stick with a B minus. Vladimir, okay. New Blood is up next. 1 in a black for a 2/2 legendary creature vampire rogue at rare. Whenever you commit a crime, you put a +1/+1 counter on Vladimir. Only triggers once per turn. And as long as Vladimir has 4 or more +1/+1 counters, it has Menace and LifeLink.
Yeah, I kind of like this thing.
Yeah, it's simple, but it's good.
Yeah, not broken.
No,
but it's good.
This is Merc's kind of rare, right? Like it's a good card. It's not busted. Doesn't invalidate anything. You have to care about it, but yeah, I like Vladimir.
Like a B.
Yeah, I give it a B.
So okay. If you're giving this a B, you think that the Bronco is worse than this?
I think so, because I do think you're gonna like the life loss does matter. Like you hit a 3 and then a 4 off the Bronco, that's a big hit.
But you can
saddle it sometimes. That's still a cost.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Yep. We'll see. Karavek the Punisher. 1 black for a legendary creature, human warlock at rare. Whenever you commit a crime, exile up to 1 target black card from your graveyard and copy it. You may cast the copy. If you do, you'll lose 2 life. So you still have to pay the mana cost to do this.
Yeah, which is when you first read this, that sometimes doesn't sink in, but you do have to pay for the copy.
I actually don't love this that much.
No, I don't. Like it has to be a black card.
Yeah. 1 black.
You have to pay for it. You lose life.
It's okay. It's not a bad card, but I think this is not going to. I don't think you're going to first pick this card very often. Let me put it that way.
No. I think it's like maybe a C plus, but maybe just a C.
Yeah, and also like when you're committing a crime, you're spending mana, so you can't necessarily get the best thing that you want out of your grave. Yeah, I'm going to give this just a C, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's where I was as well.
Rush of Dread. This is 1 black for a sorcery. It's a spree card at rare. +1 mana. Target opponent sacrifices half the creatures they control, rounded up. +2 mana. Target opponent discards half their cards in their hand, rounded up. +2 mana. Target opponent loses half their life, rounded up.
Yeah, maybe I'll take this opportunity to just say I really like the design of these spree cards.
Really cool.
These are the type of cards that individually have been Fs in a lot of cases, but when you combine them, I think there's something here.
So there was a card in Rivals of Ixalan called Vona's Hunger, which was like 3 mana instant. If you had the city's blessing, your opponent sacrifices half their creatures, and that was an okay card. It wasn't great, so just make a comparison here. that 4 mana, your opponent attacks half their things is okay. By the time you can really kick this, and that's going to be the main mode here. And by the time you really kick this, they're not going to have many cards in hand. Maybe you get to discard 1 card or 2 cards from their hand, which is okay still. And then life loss. Yeah, I think in the late game, you're going to go, you sack half your things and lose half your life. That's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a lot. Let's hear your grade first. You've done a lot of. Let's hear your grade first, Alex. I'll do Mark. Let's hear your grade first for this one today.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
Fair
yeah.
enough. I think this thing is a D plus.
Yeah, I was not gonna give it that high a grade. So like, as in general, I agree with that. That's around what I was gonna give it a C minus, but
No, I said D plus.
yeah. Sorry, I meant I was not going to give it a high that high of a grade in general, and I agree with what you're saying.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're just about the same. Put me on for a C minus, but not a great card. Pitiless Carnage up next. This is 3 and a black for a sorcery at rare. Sacrifice any number of permanents you control, then draw that many cards. Plot for 1 black. You can sack lands.
Yeah, I don't really want to.
No, yeah, exactly. Like, if you're drawing a bunch of cards, you don't want to be sacking your lands.
Yeah, if I'm sacking lands, how am I casting all these cards that I've just drawn?
I don't think this card's very good.
No, there was a card recently that was equal to the number of cards you draw and something happens. So there's some kind of combo with it. What
the Nathan's card?
Oh, there we go. Yeah, there you go.
Combo. Yeah, that is something that's going to come up once in a while. You get the Mambo combo. I think this is pretty close to like an F or maybe a D minus.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it D minus just for Nathan.
Yeah, give the credence to the legend. Gissa, the Hellraiser here. 3 black for a 4/4 human warlock legendary creature at Mythic. Ward of 2 mana and pay 2 life. Skeletons and zombies you control get +1/+1 and have Menace. Whenever you commit a crime, create 2 tapped 2/2 blue and black zombie rogue creature tokens, but this ability only triggers once per turn. But that's okay, because that's a great ability.
If you somehow manage to cast this and then cast the blue, what is it, Geralf?
Oh yeah, they're the brother and sister. Yeah, Gissa and Geralf, exactly.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of zombies, huge, massive zombies. But,
yeah.
This card's incredible.
Card's very, very good. Yeah, imagine just going like turn 6, play this, play a land, like a desert land. Yeah, card's great, and it does pass the test of it's got protection. It's got ward too. It's good enough. You want to give this an A? Yeah, cool. Not quite A plus because you do have to do a little bit of something to get the zombies. But all right, that's gonna bring us to red. Great Train Heist is our first red card. Single red mana for an instant. It's a spree card at rare. +2 in a red. Untap all creatures you control. If it's your combat phase, there's an additional combat phase after this phase. +2 mana. Creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain first strike until end of turn. Plus red. Choose target opponent. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to that player this turn, you make a tapped treasure token.
Yeah, it's another one where I think individually these cards are kind of bad, but together there's something here, and more so than the black one.
Yeah, still not great though.
I am okay. Yeah, I was gonna give this like a C minus type of thing.
I do like the 3 mana your creatures get +0/+1 in first strike. Like that's not bad.
Well, like so 6 it is basically a 6 mana instant speed overrun.
Right. Yeah, that is true. You know what? If you put those two together, it's very difficult for your opponent to have a profitable combat that turn.
Right, because like you're attacking, and even if not all your stuff survives, if a couple of your creatures survive, eat things, and then you get to attack again, like they're probably gonna die.
Actually, the thing I do like about this card as well, like one of the things that adds to this is you can just cast this on blocks, right? Like first strike on blocks is
that's what I mean. It's instant speed.
Sorry, yeah. I see what you're saying. Yeah, okay. Okay, no, I like this card more than I thought I would. You want to give it a C plus, maybe B minus for the upside?
No, I wasn't going to go that high. I think it's like 6 mana is a lot for
is.
an overrun that doesn't add a ton of power. I was going to go
just a C?
C minus.
Okay, I'll give it a C. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I talked you up even higher than I was. There you go.
Hell to Pay, good name. X and a red for a sorcery at rare. It deals X damage to target creature, and you make a number of tapped treasure tokens equal to the amount of excess damage that was dealt to the creature this way.
This card is interesting because it looks like a rare, but if you like close your eyes, like it's basically an uncommon.
Yeah. And it's okay.
It could even be a common, honestly.
It could, yeah. It's an inefficient removal spell. Yeah, I mean,
if you have excess mana, the last thing you need is more mana.
more mana,
right?
exactly. Yeah, it's actually not that good then, right? It's like a C minus D plus removal spell.
Yeah. I honestly think it's like a D plus.
Okay, yeah, let's give D plus to hell to play.
Okay.
Magda, the Horde Master, 1 in a red for a 2/2 legendary creature, Dwarf Berserker at rare. Whenever you commit a crime, create a tapped treasure token. This ability triggers only once per turn. And she has an ability, sacrifice 3 treasure tokens to make a 4/4 Dragon Scorpion. Creature token with flying and haste. Activate only as a sorcery.
A Dragon Scorpion, but not a Dragon Scorpion Rogue, like the Rakdos card we saw.
Yeah.
This one's more controllable. So this is, I mean, if you have this, then the last card that makes extra treasures is kind of
that is
sweet,
funny. Yeah, that's funny. So you are kind of playing in the minigame here of like, can I get the 3 treasures to make my hasty dragon? I think most of the time. That's like the aim. Like sometimes, I mean, for example, if you don't want to look at Magda's last card, she also had this ability, sack 5 treasures, go get a dragon from your deck. That wasn't the main part of the card. I think that kind of is the main part of this card.
I like the first line of text.
Yeah, that's also fine too. I'm just saying, I guess what I'm saying is when you do the first line of text, you will probably not actually want to spend the treasure. Most times.
Right. Yeah, this card's good though.
Yeah, it's a good card.
like a B?
A B, yeah, I was gonna give it a B. Also, it's kind of funny, I was looking at Twitter. Magda's original card is Magda like Brazen Outlaw or something, and she's not an outlaw. So fail on that side. All right, Slick Shot Show Off. This is 1 red for a 1/2 Bird Wizard. A Bird Wizard. Clarm's gonna love this at rare. Flying in haste. It's got whenever you cast a non-creature spell, Slick Shot Show Off gets +2/+0 until end of turn. It also has plot for 1 red.
Yeah, so the plot is to kind of just protect it from, so you can like one-shot your opponent with a ton of spells.
Yep.
I don't think you're going to be plotting this. Well, I was going to say that most of the time, but honestly, like, it's a nice way to double spell.
Yep, 2 mana plot, just like you've been pointing out.
Yeah, this card's just good.
It's not that hard just to kill your opponent with this thing when they're at like 10. Right, like you cast. I guess there's not that many pump spells in red, so maybe a little bit harder than I'm thinking.
There's the 1 mana trick in red.
Sure. Yeah, solid card though. What do you want to give it?
I want to give this B plus. I like this card.
I agree with that. Yeah, B plus for Slick Shot Show Off. Hellspur Posse Boss. 2 red for a 2/4 Lizard Rogue at rare. Other outlaws you control have haste. And when Hellspur Posse Boss enters the battlefield, create 2 1/1 red mercenary creature tokens. Wow. Whew. Reminds me of the red-capped Gutter Dweller from Wildspell Drain.
Yep. This thing is at least an A.
Yeah, I'm going to put this in the A plus range. It stabilizes the board, pushes a ton of damage, just does everything, is relatively cheap, has types.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll join you there.
A plus. Stingerback Terror. This is 2 red for another Dragon Scorpion at rare. It's a 7/7 flying trample, but it gets -1/-1 for each card in your hand. It has plot for 2 red. So another kind of use of plot, getting a card out of your hand. Maybe you have a cheaper plot cost or something like that.
Yeah, this card. I think this card's neat. I like it.
Yeah. So you play this on turn 4. You're usually going to have like 5 cards in your hand on turn 4. Maybe 4.
Are you? So, well, assume you're on the draw,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like 8, then 7 on turn 1, 8, then 6 on turn 2. You play something. 7, then 5 on turn 3, and you could potentially get down to 4 cards
Sure.
if you just play 2-drop, 3-drop, 4-drop.
Yeah.
And that's on the draw.
Yeah, you do really want to make sure you have a low curve deck with this, so that you're not just like drawing a bunch of cards and almost killing it sometimes, or making it smaller and ineffective.
But even like if you have 4 cards in hand and this thing's a 3/3 flying trample for 4, that gets bigger when you untap, basically.
Yeah.
Still
That's good.
quite good.
Yeah. You want to give it like a B? B plus?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go B plus.
Okay.
I think the plot on this is like anything that plots for 3 into all those 4 costs is pretty good.
All right, here's a
You wanna
nice
go
one.
B?
Oh, sorry, good. Yeah, I'm gonna go B on the Terror.
Okay.
Here's a nice one. Terror of the Peaks, another reprint. 3 red for a Mythic Dragon. It's a 5/4 flyer. It says spells your opponents cast that target Terror of the Peaks cost an additional 3 life to cast. So it's almost like Ward 3-ish. Or Ward pay 3 life, I should say. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Terror of the Peaks deals damage equal to that creature's power to any target.
Yeah, this is again at least an A. Like plotting into this is pretty nuts.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think I'm probably just gonna give this an A plus.
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna go A for this.
Okay. Yeah. Great card either way. Our last red card, Calamity, Galloping Inferno. 4 red for a legendary creature, Horse Mounted rare. It's a 4/6 haste. And when it attacks while saddled, choose a non-legendary creature that's saddled at this turn. Create a tapped and attacking copy. Tapped and attacking token that's a copy of it. Sacrifice that token at the beginning of your next end step, and repeat this process once. Saddle 1. So you're getting a 6 mana 4/6 haste that when it attacks, you get a token no matter what, a copy of something else, and if you saddle it, you get another one.
Yeah, and saddle 1 means you can crew this with Outlaw Medic.
Yeah, boom.
Yes.
Doing your thing.
Draw 2 cards.
Draw 2 cards, gain 2 life.
Yeah. I don't want to kill my opponent. I want to play the value game.
It's a good card.
Yeah, I think this card's really good.
Yeah. Is it A minus? A? I think it's.
I think it's just an A.
Yeah,
Like, this is just another AOMR, right? Like this is.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good card. All right, it's gonna bring us to green here, and usually that'd be like, all right, home stretch, but we got a whole other bonus sheet and some other cards to talk about. So first green card, Smuggler's Surprise, is a single green mana for an instant. It's a spree card at rare, +2 mana, mill 4 cards. You may put up to 2 creatures and or land cards from among the milled cards into your hand, +4 in a green. You may put up to 2 creature cards from your hand onto the battlefield. +1, creatures you control with power 4 or greater gain hexproof and indestructible until end turn.
Yeah, another sweet piece together. I don't get the flavor on this card. Like what?
Yeah, like
Oh,
Mark, it's the classic story of the spaghetti western Trojan horse. Haven't you seen the movies about that? I don't get it either.
Like most Western towns are like dusty and open and have no walls.
Yeah, I don't know.
And like, why is it protecting? Aren't the small creatures the things that fit in the horse?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I don't understand. But anyways, whatever. It's just a mishmash of cards. We'll evaluate it based on only on its abilities. And I think the abilities here add up to be decent, but not great.
So mostly you're going to be using this as an instant speed divination, right?
Yeah.
With some card selection. Like, that's good. Like, look at the top 4, take 2 for 3 mana at instant speed. Like, that's not a bad effect.
Yeah, we've seen multiple cases where some of these you have to pick a creature and a land, and they're not as great. And the ones that let you pick creature and or land are always much better.
Yes. I think what's going to happen, I think the main play pattern with this card is going to be you use it as a protection spell, wait till your opponent casts something, and then counter their thing, or you win a combat even, because it's hexproof and indestructible, and draw 2 cards off of it. Yeah. Okay, that's okay.
For 4 mana?
Yeah, you want to give this like a C+, a C?
Yeah, I'll go C+ for this. I think this card's sweet.
Goldvein Hydra is up next. X and a green for a 0/0 Hydra at Mythic. It's got Vigilance and Trample and Haste. Enters the battlefield with X+1/+1 counters on it, and when it dies, you create a number of tapped treasure tokens equal to its power.
Yeah. So what number do you like casting this for?
4? Probably.
Like 4 and a green, or 4 mana total?
5 mana total, so like 4 and a green.
Yeah, I think it's okay for 3, pretty good for 4, and then yeah, it kind of keeps scaling up. I don't think you're gonna cast it for 1 and a green, but 2 and a green is like not that bad.
Yeah, it's a 2/2 that dies into some treasure.
Into 2 treasures, like that could, if your opponent trades with this early on.
It's terrifying, actually. That's really terrifying. You know what? I think actually we should probably give a bit more weight to that, because that's really scary, right? Because you have this thing that just maybe pecks in once, and everyone's gonna be like, all right, I guess I attack into it.
Well, it has vigilance too,
It's
right?
vigilance, right? Exactly. Yeah, the card is more modal than it looks. I think. I think you're gonna cast. I think the most common modes will be on 2 and on like 5 or 6. Or sorry, X equals 2 or X equals 4 or 5, to be clear. And then sometimes you just draw in the late game. You just like X equals 9.
Yeah. I think this card's pretty good.
I like modal cards and like X spells that aren't just fake, where it's like, well, you're always going to do it as this, right? You actually do have to think about when you're going to cast this card and what your hand looks like. When it's a B plus, A minus.
B plus is exactly what I was thinking. Yeah.
Nice. Bristly Bill, Spine Sower. This is another mythic. 1 and a green for a 2/2 plant druid, legendary creature. Landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. 3 green. Double the number of +1/+1 counters on each creature you control.
You just need 2 of the crews. You can just keep doing it.
Yeah, exactly. Just whoop, 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 whoop. This is good. Yeah, this landfall, put a counter on your creature or a creature. That's strong.
Yeah, it's basically like those white cards that add a counter every turn. Like that's
Yep.
Not that far off.
Yeah.
Something like that,
Well,
and then that ability is terrifying.
Definitely a little bit worse because as a top deck on like in the mid game or late game, it's not as good as those cards. But yeah, still a strong card. You want to give it a B plus to Bristly Bill? A minus? But I think probably A minus.
I think it's A minus.
Yeah, it's just efficient and does enough stuff. Scary enough. Free Strider Lookout is up next. 2 and a green for a human rogue at rare. It's a 3/3 reach creature. Whenever you commit a crime, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may put a land card from among them onto the battlefield tapped. Put the rest of it on the bottom of your library in a random order. This ability triggers only once each turn.
This card is sweet.
Yeah. Just ramp.
Yeah, and it's slowly thinning your deck too.
Yeah. That's pretty good. And you can get it's the kind of card where you're looking at enough cards where you kind of get a sense of like where you're going to draw your cards. It's fine. You put the rest in the bottom of the random order where you kind of know like, okay, I'm looking for this specific card. I saw it like 3 triggers ago or whatever. Yeah. So
A minus?
I was just going to go B plus.
Too high?
I think it's a little too high. Yeah, I was going to go B plus for street.
Yeah, I was between B plus and A minus. I'll stick with my A minus.
Okay.
But sure.
Ornery Tumblewag is up next. 2 and a green for a 2/2 Brushwag mount. It's a rare. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. So there's the kind of card you were just talking about, where it's just like loads them up. Yeah. Whenever Ornery Tumblewag attacks while saddled, double the number of +1/+1 counters on target creature. Saddle cost is 2.
Yeah, two siege veterans in green.
Yeah. Pretty nice.
This one's better than the last one, though.
Yes, I agree. Just an A?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. These cards they just throw around counters for free. Always very good. Outcaster Trailblazer up next. 2 and a green for a 4/2 human druid at rare. When it enters the battlefield, you add 1 mana of any color. It's sort of interesting. Whenever another creature power 4 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, you draw a card. Plot 2 and a green.
Yeah, another sweet one. Like green's got tons of bangers.
Yeah, so I think play pattern here is like you plot this on 3, and then you kind of like ramp with it. You get a Lotus Petal, so you can most likely play this, and then cast your big creature, your 5 mana creature, get your card. Yeah, that's cool.
Oh yeah, this card's great.
Yeah, nice little package. B plus.
I am gonna give this one another A minus.
All right, yeah. Do you want to call it now? Like, just put a stamp on it. Green's the best color in the set.
I think like common, uncommon, and rare, and even like some of the bonus sheet stuff. And green is just insane.
We're not even done all the great rares because we've got another great rare here, Colossal Rattleworm. 2 green for a 6/5. What's the downside here? It doesn't have one. It has flash as long as you control a desert. It also has
3 upsides.
Yeah, it also has trample. It also has 1 and a green, exile Colossal Rattleworm from your graveyard, search your library for a desert card, put it onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle.
Uh-huh.
This card is just like a stat monster.
Yeah, and it's also like gives you value. You know, if they counter it or remove it, like you still have more value there.
It's an A.
It's at least an A.
Yeah, it could be an A plus. You're gonna be able to ambush something pretty often with it. Playing around open mana in this set is going to be the hardest thing to do. I truly think this is going to be one of the biggest. Joys and or annoyances depending on who's on, who's got what.
Yeah, like I think I'm okay giving this thing an A plus.
Yeah. All right, let's do it. Let's do an A plus Colorado Worm. Still,
Right.
we got a Mythic here that's also really good. Railway Brawler, 3 green for a 5/5 Rhino Warrior. It's got Reach and Trample. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you put X +1/+1 counters on it, where X is its power. So it's double its power, basically. Plot for 3 and a green.
Yeah, this thing's also crazy good.
Yeah, and it's doing that thing that I was talking about on another rare, where you plot it on 3. Like, it is a card with, 5 mana card, no protection. But you plot it on 4, you cast this on 5, cast another creature, there's no window for your opponent to respond, and you're going to get the counters.
Yeah, there is.
Oh, sorry, because it's, on the stack. My bad. That is true. That's not the case here. But it's still good.
Yeah, still great.
Yeah. I think worse than the last card we saw, funny enough. Like, I almost think that last one should have been the Mythic. That seems more Mythic to me.
Yes, I would have preferred if they were swapped.
Yeah. This one's an A-.
I think I'm still... Well, it's... Yeah, probably. Yeah. I was going to go A, but I think A- is probably true.
All right. We've got a cycle of lands here at Rare, dual lands, and it's the enemy and allied? No, just enemy colored. What are these ones called?
The fast lands.
Fast lands. Yeah, they're the ones that enter the battlefield tapped unless you control 2 or fewer lands. So if it's your third or less land, black-green, blue-green, white-black, white-red, and blue-red. How do you like these?
These are good.
Yeah.
You're happy to take these and play them?
Yep, absolutely.
I think they're, like, if you're not worried about committing crimes, I think these are better than the deserts.
Mm-hmm.
If you do like committing crimes, I prefer the deserts. So
yeah.
When we gave all the deserts, like B-?
B-, yeah.
Did we? Or so that's same grade here.
Yeah, I'm in. Let's give them B-.